Welcome to True and Unpolished. Through this podcast, our intention is to uplift, amuse, and inspire you to create more of a life you'll love. Let's get authentic, everybody. Okay, we're gonna try this again, everybody. Mary and I met last week and did an episode. And at the end, it was really good. There's so many awesome, ahas, and it was great. And I neglected to record it. So, so we didn't have it anymore, but we knew it was intentional. So we paused and allowed it to be what it was. And so now we're going to have this conversation with the amazing Carrie Graves. We want to talk about, it's New Year's. Happy New Year, everybody. And Mary has a tradition and I have a tradition. And I'm guessing, Carrie, do you have a tradition for New Year's too?
I do.
Good. And I know she's going to share it with us too here today. And I have not done the word of the year as Mary has done each year. I have in the spiritual community that I served, the tradition was the burning bowl ceremony. And so we released something for the new year, something that we wanted to shed and let go of. And that's been a beautiful tradition for me. And I am embracing that too and adding this part in. So while I do have an intention to release something, I also want to replace it with something. And
Cool.
so I'm using the word of the year as what I want to replace it with. My word is fierce. But hold on, I know it sounds really, what does it sound like? It sounds like mean. So I just
aggressive.
It sounds aggressive. But if you look up the word fierce, which I did, it does have a definition that says displaying an intense, ferocious aggressiveness. That is not the fierce that I'm talking about. There is another definition of the word fierce, and that is showing a heartfelt and powerful intensity. And that's the one that I'm talking about. I feel like I need to embrace taking care of myself in a fierce way and having a beautiful and heartfelt and powerful intensity about it. So I want to tell you a short little story. Okay. So I would say this is true and unpolished. Maybe it's more true. I'll let you guys decide. So I was in the grocery store and it was the day after I had decided that the word fierce was going to be my word. And I was there and my boys were with me and I gave them, sometimes I'll give them assignments and say, okay, you have to go find this, so I'm watching for them and they're, further away, and I've moved my cart so I'm out of the way of traffic. And a woman, I'm wearing a sweater that is very similar to other things that I wear, and it is a little oversized. And so it was down below my shoulder. And I had a shirt on underneath it. So it was just showing, the tank top strap that I had underneath it. And a woman walked up to me and took my sweater and moved it up and said, there. She moved it up, but yes, she did. She did.
No,
And I thought, what? And at first I went, oh my gosh, I'm wearing this shirt, and is it appropriate? And I'm 40 and maybe it's not okay. I have all these thoughts that come rushing in, and I went, you know what? No, absolutely not. You do not get to come up to me and touch me in a store and touch my clothing and decide that you are going to adjust it. And so I yanked it back down further than it had been before. And that is the kind of fierce that I'm inviting myself to embrace. Carrie, what's your tradition? What do you do in the new year?
Well, first I want to say about your story. It resonates with me because a theme for me lately has been learning to be comfortable in my own skin. I may have mentioned this, But
Yeah.
your story puts me in mind of that. Like I was imagining, like in a dream, if that were me, wow, that would be me really being comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
So my tradition is I pull two words every year from this particular deck of cards, and Mary is the one who introduced me not only to this tradition of the word for the year, but also these cards, which are called Vintage Wisdom Oracle by Victoria Mosley.
Mm.
They are beautiful, and they each have one word, significant words, and the book that comes with them to describe the words is just great. And I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years with this deck, and I can't tell you how amazing it's been. And for some reason, the first year I was drawn to pull two of them. And I started out by just looking through the deck and looking for what spoke to me instead of doing like a blind draw.
Oh, sure.
And that worked too. But then it's been incredible. Like the year that I moved to Maryland, I got freedom and adventure. And one
Oh,
of them had the Eiffel Tower on it, which I told y'all before about how I dreamed of France and how that's a symbol for me. So,
oh,
um,
perfect.
yeah. So this year, my words are nature and beauty. And I've
Ooh,
had nature before. It's really, it points back to the root chakra and about grounding and, I think being comfortable in your own skin, feeling secure. And I'm excited about that one. And then the beauty is not exactly what you would think it is, like you said, Lydia.
yeah,
um, it's more about seeing the divine in everything
yeah.
and integrating it into your life. The description for this is really cool, so I'm excited to explore that more. And I really do keep these with me throughout the year. Sometimes I take a picture of one of the cards and put it as my lock screen on my phone.
Oh, good idea.
It's amazing. So the beauty one really it talks about it says this the appearance of this transformative card is calling you to open your physical eyes as well as the eyes of your heart to experience the healing balm of beauty. So I was thinking about being comfortable in my own skin because one thing that's really bothered me in recent years, which is kind of silly but kind of not, is that I have rosacea. So my face is really red and it just makes me extremely self-conscious. And one day I was talking to my therapist and she said something about being comfortable in your own skin, and I was like, oh, that's it. That's like the spiritual meaning behind the rosacea. Maybe I can
Uh,
Oh,
work on
yeah.
this. Yeah, I mean, she just gave me the biggest aha.
One of the things that I noticed about the first set of words and the second set of words is they sort of play off of each other. I mean, nature and beauty go very well together, as do freedom and adventure. You have to feel free in order to take adventures.
yes.
Same with beauty, to be able to see beauty. I mean, I think nature gives us a lot of guidance in that and perspective. So we see when we pay attention to nature, we're more likely to see beauty.
I had the thought nature is like your nature is beauty. Like that is what came to
Oh,
me.
wow.
What did you think when you first got the card?
My first thought, well, first, I want to say, Mary, you hit the nail on the head about why I like drawing the two cards. And as you were talking, I was thinking one year I had changes and choice
Oh,
together. I mean, it was
whoa.
crazy. And that was a lot of work I needed to do around that, leading up to my adventures and freedom. And I love what you're saying, Lydia. What I first thought was just kind of my surface level. Okay, I need to take a deeper look at these. But what struck me was like the root chakra reference that's in the description of nature of that card. There are a lot of red flowers on it, and that's always been a problematic one for me. Like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you got to have that foundation, and I've always had trouble with that one.
Well, good news, you got a whole year to
Yeah.
sit with them.
Yay!
And that's the thing that I like about the word of the year, is because it really is just a grounding point and a guide for us to move through the year. And I think like what you're talking about, where you have one word and then the next year you have another word, and over time you can look back on that and see your growth. And so I think you do that within the year many times, but then also when you've had this practice for long enough, you can really see how you've grown and evolved over a period of time. It's less pressure than the rigidness of resolutions that people break within the first month anyway.
I've seen a couple articles lately about resolutions and how exactly what you're saying. It's like, that's great, set your intention, but will alone is not enough. I've been a believer of that for many years. And as I've mentioned on other episodes, reading the book Boundaries by Henry Cloud, I'm almost done with it. And there's a chapter at the end, and I was like, yes, I am validated. He says the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think that pulling the cards gives us the opportunity to look for the transformation that the divine is trying to create in us, and allows us to then say yes and
Oh,
participate.
sure.
Kind
Yeah.
of the flip side of the resolution, not to say we can't set an intention to be more fit or practice a spiritual practice more, eat better, but maybe look at it through this other lens.
Looking at the Farmer's Almanac, winter is not a good time to start these practices. And so it's very counterintuitive. And I saw somebody post or something about that this week. Like, we start New Year's resolutions in the dead of winter,
Yes.
but that's really it's a time for hibernation. It's a time for, rest and renewal, and so it really is not even according to the seasonal calendar. It's a horrible time to start those things. But if you look at the Farmer's Almanac, then and the moon stages, then there's a good time to cut hair for slow growth. There's a good time to cut hair for fast, quick growth. Quitting smoking, and certainly planting your vegetables. But there's these dates on the calendar that align with the moon stages that are the right time to start and end things.
Talk about nature, the Farmer's Almanac. I'm gonna
Love
do it
it.
online. Like, I'm gonna get it because
Me too.
that sounds awesome.
No, I've got it. I got it at the farm store.
What is a farm store?
Tractor Supply.
Oh, okay. Go
You
ahead.
can get it at the bookstore too.
Yeah, you can get it at the bookstore. You can certainly order it online, and they have like a website, but I like to have the physical. I even ordered a calendar. I was honestly a little bit disappointed because I was hoping it was going to have like more information in the months, organized already for me. But my plan is to create something like that for myself.
Cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So one of the things that I think about with New Year's resolutions is that oftentimes it's focused on a behavior. It's focused on changing some kind of behavior, or adapt, or inviting some kind of behavior, or beginning some kind of behavior. And to me, that is the opposite way to go about it. For me, if I want a behavior change, I look at what is the quality that I would need to embody in order to have that behavior change. And so that's why I like the word being about a quality that I want to invite in.
Yeah.
I just was thinking about the quality of beauty and how that would express things that I still want: to lose weight, for my skin to look better, I'm actually more fit and healthy than I've ever been, which is crazy, except for the age part. But
Embodying it, that quality, I think that the behavior is something that will change organically. Mayor, what's your word? And then I think you were going to share a very unpolished story with us.
What word came to me a few weeks ago, because Brittany, who has been helping us with the art challenge that we've been doing, she said something about magic, and I was like, oh, that'd be a great word for you. And I thought, magic would be a great word for her because she is the one that brought it up. But come to find out, the word was for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I attached to it. So last week, David and I decided to go on a camping trip. And I don't know if y'all know this, if you do any camping, but campsites are really hard to find these days because people want to be out in nature and people want to get out and do things, I think. And so camping is a good choice because you got the fresh air, you got the social distancing and all that stuff. And so they're very hard to find, and especially if you're doing it over a holiday weekend and are booking it the week before.
I bet.
We found this place called the Okefenokee Swamp, and it's in southern Georgia. You have to drive all the way around the swamp, essentially, and before you drive through it to get on this island that the swamp is on. It is a dark sky location, so there's no light pollution. I mean, it's they have a campground there, so there's light from that, but there's like a parking lot, open sky parking lot. And we decided that's how we're going to ring in the new year. We're going to like take a blanket and lay down under the sky.
Oh, cool.
Look at the stars. Well, about an hour, 2 hours before New Year's, it was completely overcast.
Oh.
And so we're like, oh, well, I guess we'll walk up there anyway. We got up there and it was still overcast. And I swear, just a few minutes before midnight, the sky opened up and there were no clouds. It was completely clear. And these dark sky locations you can see because the light pollution is low. And so we could see so many stars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a very magical kind
of course, magic.
Yes.
way to start the year. And another thing that happened while we were there, this was freaky as all get out, but we're at the campsite. We got to the campsite late because it took a lot longer because there was a torrential downpour on the way there. So it was supposed to be like a 5-hour drive, and it was, closer to like a 7-hour drive. Very stressful because it was like windy and like really heavy rains pretty much the whole drive. And when we got there, it was like there was no rain. And I don't know if it's because we're in the swamp and it absorbs the water differently or something, but it was almost as if it had not rained where we were.
Oh, wow.
We're like putting our stuff out, getting settled in and everything. And this deer comes and walks into our campsite. I'm not talking about like just happened by. He's like chilling out, wants to hang in our campsite. Deer represent kindness, grace, and good luck.
Oh,
which
wow.
I think goes along with magic, right?
Yeah.
Last episode you talked about your other encounter with the deer.
Yes. We have a dog, Roxy. She kind of looks like somewhere between a fox and a deer. I mean, she's got that coloring, and she'd be like a very short deer. And I thought maybe he's like looking for a friend, and thinks Roxy will be a friend, which if you've met Roxy, she is not your friend.
We were just talking about this the last time Carrie was here. We were talking about animals and like encounters with animals. And I had not remembered that it was a deer in your story. And that's significant. The symbolism that you described for the deer was exactly the experience you had New Year's Eve when the clouds parted. Like it was kindness, it was grace, it was that. It's about having the eyes to see it. New Year's resolutions and starting those things. this is why I go back to the quality, because if I work on the quality, if I work on embodying the quality, then I get eyes to see that kind of beauty. I get eyes to see that the universe is always talking to me and that grace is here.
Mary, I wanted to offer that in one of the sets of cards I have by Colette Baron Reed, who you also introduced me to, the deer, I think it says be gentle on yourself.
Oh,
And I'm thinking about gentleness as a quality as well, angled towards resolutions. You know,
Yeah,
mhm.
resolutions are aggressive in a
yes.
Yeah,
not good, fierce way, right?
yeah,
They're
yeah, yeah.
angry.
The difference with this word, with magic versus all the other words that I've ever had, is that I'm not doing anything.
Mhm.
Kind of like what Lydia said and what the deer shows us. And also, you know
Mhm.
what else there are in the swamp?
Alligators.
Alligators.
Alligators. We did walk through the swamp. They have a boardwalk through the swamp, and it is kind of freaky. It was very magical too. I mean, this place was amazing. It was so beautiful. The greens and the blues of the sky, the greens of the moss and the grass and the ferns. It was just unbelievable. And then you see the alligator.
Cool, Mary. That puts me in mind. I have a friend who Mary knows, Roger Hutchison, who I used to work with in the church in South Carolina, and he lives in Houston now. He's an artist, and he has developed a practice of going out and taking photographs in some
Mhm.
kind of crazy park he lives near, just outside of Houston, and they're unbelievable. He's always been a great photographer, but he's out in nature experiencing the magic of the beauty and fierce animals and gentle animals. I'm like, am I trying too hard
I
to pull it all together? I'm just, his
I
photos
think
are
well, I
amazing.
think that is, I mean, to me, those encounters, I mean, the deer coming to the campsite, those things happen when we pay attention, you
Yes.
know. And what I sat with after that deer left, and he did not leave on his own accord. We had to like scare him off because I was concerned that Roxy was going to become aggressive. But afterward, I thought to myself, now, could we have handled that differently? Could we have managed Roxy in a different way so that we had that more of that experience?
What occurred to me when you were talking and stood out is the picture. It's only been a few years for me, having social media and a Facebook and all of that, and
Mm-hmm.
I get that desire to want to share a moment, that was powerful. And I've noticed, and probably not unlike you guys, I've noticed that if I rush to share the moment, I miss the moment. And I think
Yes.
there's such a knee jerk reaction now. Like it's so like second nature. And what I love often about you, Mary, and I notice it uh, because it's different than the norm. You'll go somewhere, and when you come back and you're sitting on your porch thinking about the time you just had, you
Mm-hmm.
then post. And so I think that this is a moment just to invite all of us to have that practice rather than attempting to catch a moment and even be aware of it. Like, I don't think you can have magic if you if it's about the photo op, like
Right.
if it's about the photo op, magic ain't gonna happen. So you get to choose. You want the photo op or you want magic.
And one of the things I love about my friend's photos is he does go out from what he posts later and
Mm-hmm.
with a camera and just waits for the magic to happen and then
Mm.
tries to get these photos and capture whoever he can capture. And oh my god, the birds, the alligators, the it's just unbelievable. And then goes home and as sort of an art practice, goes through and edits them and then posts them, and then they become like this sort of meditative, collection of photos if one wants to take advantage of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it always has to do with your intention, right? So
Mhm.
I've seen Roger's pictures that Carrie's talking about. They're amazing, and they're not like my pictures are like, I better capture this moment because I want to remember it, and they look
Yeah.
like that. They're amateur photographs taken with my cell phone, but you can look at Roger's pictures and see that meditative quality that Carrie is talking about. And people will pick up on your energy. The behavior may be the same, but your reason for it might be completely different from somebody else's.
Mhm.
And people, whether they know your intention or not, they're going to feel the energy.
Right. And
Yeah.
you're describing feeling the energy by looking. Like when you look at Rogers, you can feel the energy of his intention behind that. And yeah, I do feel the energy when I look at social media and Facebook, and I look through, like I do feel that. I do.
Mhm.
I can feel it. And often I'll chastise myself, feeling like I'm judging people, because I don't want to judge anybody for what they're doing. And I love that you just brought that up, because it's my invitation to understand that I'm feeling energy.
I love this because I always say I love this, but just
I
because these conversations are amazing.
love this.
Love,
I love
love,
this.
love.
Good. So somebody, maybe this is a create more. I am aware of all of the evils and temptations of social media. And I'm not saying I'm not subject to some of them, but for the most part, my experience has done nothing but fed me because I'm
Mhm.
connected with amazing people. And as long as I don't spend too much time on there,
Yes.
just scrolling, which, you have to watch yourself. Things like these pictures are so inspirational. I see friends out there making music, and that's not my primary mode of living. But what you were inspiring me, Lydia and Mary, to do a create more of is maybe to look at social media. So somebody once told me in the church that they use Facebook as like a way to pray. So you check in on people, whatever pops up in your feed from your algorithm, you just kind of keep them in your heart or look at what's going on. Not overly attached, but that's a nice way to do something good with social media. And so
Yes.
I'm thinking about these qualities and these words of the year, and maybe when I'm on social media, I mean, Roger's pictures are perfect for nature and beauty,
Oh yeah.
and they really have inspired me. Like, I've come to find crocodiles to be beautiful. He takes these incredible pictures, but then just with everything, like in life, when I am on social media, maybe I can hold the intention of my words as a create more with this practice. That's
Yeah,
just
I
something
love that. Create more. And I think so really the whole thing is create more. The intention behind the word of the year is that we want to create more, right? We want to
Yeah.
create
Mhm.
more. I want to create more fierceness, and it comes from that space when I was contemplating, the word of the year. And and I thought, okay, as you guys were talking, I thought, well, if I wasn't a person that did the word of the year, one of my biggest questions would be, how did you come up with the word of the year? And Carrie started right away by telling us that hers come from the cards. And I think that's beautiful. She just lets the universe, God, tell her what her words are. And I think that's beautiful. And I think another way to do it is to decide what you want to create more of. And that might be a behavior. And then go underneath and go, what's the quality? What's the quality that I would have to embody to bring that about, to create more of that in my life?
Well, and my practice really is letting the word choose me, being open to what that word is. And while my story of Brittany telling me what my word was unknowingly, while that story is not a good example of me being open to it, eventually I
Yeah.
was.
Right.
And so having the intention to let the word come to you. And Carrie does it very specifically with the cards, but she has that same intention
Yes.
as we do as well.
Yeah. But I'll say for me, for this year, I needed to choose. Like, I think that the quality of fierceness is that I'm choosing it.
Right.
And I am normally way more receptive, and you might even say passive on the surface, but I think that there's a balance, and the word did find me, but I had, in order to have fierceness, I had to choose it. And so,
Yeah.
and there's a quote, and I have a t-shirt now that says it, and I got it engraved on a bracelet, and it's from Shakespeare, and though she be but little, she is fierce.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Me too. So thank you once again, Mary and Carrie. Mary and Carrie. Have I ever done that? That rhymes.
I feel like you probably have.
Yes. And I am going to take some instruction from my son, who has recently started a YouTube channel where he talks about football. And side note, that's awesome, because I'm the one that has to hear that usually, and now a camera gets to hear it. So, and what he does is say, subscribe. And he is not shy about it. So I am going to not be shy about it and ask you to subscribe to True and Unpolished if you haven't already, so that you don't miss an episode. Carrie visits us once a month at the beginning of the month to start us off. So thank you all for listening. You have been listening to True and Unpolished, the podcast. Let's see what happens next.